On March 16th, Governor Gage signed the bill appropriating funds for the purchase of Big Basin as California's first Redwood Park. Unfortunately, Big Basin's charter did not extend protection to North Coast redwoods. It is in the northwest regions of California that the largest sequoias grow in pure stands atop alluvial flats. Redwoods thrive along riverbanks in areas prone to flooding. When excessive amounts of silt smother the roots of other conifers, redwoods keep pace with the rise in soil by producing new roots from their root-collar burls. As many as 7 successive root systems have been counted on fallen trees. Although redwoods lack tap roots, they remain extremely wind-firm by interlocking their 6-foot-deep roots with those of neighboring trees.
Efforts to preserve the northern redwoods coincided with the construction of the state highway from Eureka to San Francisco in 1917, when the road passed through the remote Dyerville Flat Bull Creek area of Humboldt County. It opened up the most spectacular pure stands of old-growth redwood to logging.
Since virtually all lands adjacent to the highway were owned by lumbermen, 3 prominent conservationists were compelled to take action.
And they are credited with being the founders of the Save the Redwoods League. They were Madison Grant, Henry Fairfield Osborne, and John C. Merriam. John C. Merriam was a paleontologist at the University of California, and he interested his good friend Stephen Mather, who was the first director of national parks, to join the group, along with Franklin K. Lane, who was the Secretary of the Interior at the time. For a short time, Mr. Lane served as the president of Save the Redwoods League during its founding, and then John C. Merriam followed, and the Save the Redwoods League, from a $100 contribution, began to start buying up groves in 1919 and 1920, which would eventually be protected for their great antiquity and their beauty. Save the Redwoods League grew from a handful of people to an organization which today has 50,000 people throughout the United States that contribute to help save these parks. The League determined that it was necessary to actually buy it with donated funds, buy these groves with donated funds, and then combine that, hopefully, with some state monies eventually to create a whole system of groves that could be protected. There was no unified California state park system. So the Save the Redwoods League in 1926 and 27 began a campaign to urge that a bond issue be voted by the voters of California to establish a California state park system. And that state park system came into being in 1928 with the establishment of the first parks, and the Redwood Parks became the core of that California state park system.
Well, I think the California state park system, of course, was ahead of most everyone in thinking in terms of the future and in setting aside areas in California that were unique to California in its culture and in its natural history, so that I think California was recognized for the kind of far-sighted thinking that was involved. State park system.
Former director of the National Park Service, William Penn Mott Jr.
Now they're beginning to recognize how important tourism is toward their economic welfare, so that there was always that conflict between the economics and the intrinsic values of the redwoods. People that are coming out of our big metropolitan centers really have little or no understanding of what it's like to be in the outdoors and what their responsibility is.
It's very important that when people visit parks, they realize that they are actually the caretakers. They are the ones who are determining whether that park and whether those redwood trees will be as nice tomorrow as when they found them today.
I took a bunch of kids from inner Oakland on a hike once through a state park. These were kids who were on their last chance. They were in a continuation school, and it was their last shot at education before they were kicked out of the system totally. And it really wasn't anything I did. It was the park itself. The weather was perfect, the day was perfect, and all of a sudden, these kids saw a snake that happens to be on the endangered species list. And one little boy looked up at me and said, "You know, this place ain't been trashed yet." And he figured it out. There was something special about having places that haven't been trashed yet and keeping them that way.
What remains of our ancient history is recorded here among the ancient creatures who have seen civilizations come and go. It's like our people. We've seen many flags fly over this land. And these creatures around us, they commit no wrong against us. They're in state of grace. So in the name of progress, we've seen much death and destruction, and how insensitive man is to the natural world. So it behooves us then, all of us, to make corrections within the educational system where little children will be taught the truth about resources, so that when it comes their turn to accept their responsibilities of managing or helping manage a natural area, they will know how.
The future of redwood forests has a lot to do with the future of the human race, and that the future of this redwood tree is your future and my future as well. What this means is, as we come to this consciousness of the significance of the sempervirens sequoia, we're coming to realize that literally the very future of this lovely little planet we call Earth is intertwined with the reality of the future of these redwood forests.
Although nature has been responsible for placing the coast redwood on the edge of a continent and geologically on the edge of survival, the forces that have brought economic prosperity to the redwood coast have also brought the old-growth forest to the edge of extinction. The value of preserving the last remaining stands of old growth is not merely a question of economics. It is a choice between a rich or an impoverished existence for man. Perhaps the IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, explains it best when they state, "We have not inherited the earth from our parents. We have borrowed it from our children."
100 years ago, when they came to this land, old-growth redwoods looked down on every man. Till the gold rush miners needed a place to dwell, came to these quiet hills and the giant redwoods fell to the ground. Boys cut them down and hauled them to the mills, some for profit, others just for the thrill. We can see the traces every now and then of an old mill or a bottle of gin. You can almost hear their voices on the wind, on the wind. Cursing voices of a lumberman and thundering hooves of the oxen, bullmaster roaring through the canyon. Smells of bacon frying, tobacco in the air. Piles of redwoods like bodies everywhere, everywhere. When they cut them down and haul them to the mills, some for profit, others just for the thrill. traces every now and then of an old mill or a bottle of gin. Can almost hear their voices on the wind.